The importance of us knowing our history is paramount, and that was a great question because knowing our history affects how we think. It affects our confidence. It affects how we approach. The importance of us knowing our history is paramount, and that was a great question because knowing our history affects how we think. It affects our confidence. It affects how we approach obstacles in life, because if you know where you come from, if you know your bloodline, right, if you know who's inside of you and what's inside of you, then you will attack everything differently. And I think especially for our community and for our age group and for our people, we've been beat down so much, we've been indoctrinated so much that our history starts from 1619 in class, and it doesn't start from the beginning of time, right? And how we don't use a logical approach on who we are. And what happens is, for a child, if you're around your classmates that aren't black and you see that this person who is white, that they're talking about Scotland, they're talking about Europe, they're talking about Ireland, right? Or Spain even, but they aren't talking about the people who taught them architecture. They aren't talking about the people who taught them science, mathematics, algebra, chemistry, all of these amazing things. And what happens is you get a very Whole Foods type of experience, right? Where somebody comes in, gentrifies that experience and doesn't tell you the background of how it even came to be. And I think that when you see shows, you can kind of see hints, right? Me and Sid, we were watching Top Class, which is a great documentary. Uninterrupted is a great media company, media platform, production company by the great LeBron James, the GOAT. But I remember in his son's class, they were asking about Islam, and they were talking about Islam in Europe. If you study, you know that Islam in Europe was started by the Moors, right, which were black people. And these are facts that cannot be disputed. If you just watch Robin Hood, right, you saw Jamie Foxx, he was the Moor. Or you saw in the original Morgan Freeman, he was the Moor. These are black people, right? Othello was played by Lawrence Fishburne. So they'll drop hints, right? So when I was watching that doc, and I'm just watching a sports doc, I told Sid, man, I got so mad because his professor never said that they were black. She just said that they were Islamic. And what happens is that is huge, because that's like me saying Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, he wasn't black, he practiced Islam. That's a practice, that's a spiritual connection, but what did that person look like? And by me negating what that person looked like, I then get to twist history once more. So me teaching that black kid all of these things, I'm negating who these people were. And on top of that, she said that they learned from the Greeks. That's a big no-no, because yes, they had artifacts or just ideas and things and passed down information from the Greeks, but they also studied from Kemet, and they also went to Kemet, which is us, which is black people. And who did the Greeks learn under? If you study Homer, his accounts, if you study from the Greeks themselves, they will tell you that they studied at the feet of the ancient Egyptians in Kemet and in Kush. These are ancient people in the land of black faces, right? So again, what happens when we are teaching our children, we cannot give them bits and pieces. And that's what happens so often. If you're getting bits and pieces, and if you're constantly being told that our history started during 1619 and all the way up, and it's only Americanized, then you as a person feel like you aren't good enough, because everyone around you has such a deep and thorough history without you knowing that yours starts from the beginning of time, and everyone literally comes from you. That's not a racist statement. That's not anything that is divisive. That's just a fact. But for us, we have to accept when we're lied to that we come from a very primitive place, that we were in the jungle, that we had no religion, no sophisticated language. We have to accept that. But then when we start bringing out the facts, then it becomes divisive, or I don't know if that's historically accurate. And I remember from my own personal experience in school, I just thought school was cool, but I was more focused on playing football, right? But I remember in college, out of nowhere, I just had a big awakening. I just started researching more, I started reading more, I started learning more. And I remember my barber at the time, Joseph Graham, man, shout out to Joseph, legend, man. But he blew my mind from having conversations, and he would tell me, hey, check this out, read this. And I remember one of the biggest things is when we started talking about the Bible, and he was like, yo, Caleb, you really need to learn, like, Black people, who you are. Y'all are the real people of the book. We are the people of the book. And to also understand, you know, that Jesus, he looked just like you. And hearing someone say that was crazy, right? And I know what I'm saying is very controversial, but I love these conversations because I have these behind the scenes all the time. But even if you don't agree with what I'm saying, just think, right? I'm just here just to make you think, in the words of the great Dan Calloway. Just think for a second. The moment that I was starting to be exposed to the rich history of ancient Egypt, our indigenous history here in America, it was blowing my mind, and my confidence began to rise even more, especially in the classroom. And when you go in the classroom now, and I remember I was taking honors classes in college, and 9 times out of 10, I was one of the only few Black people in the room. My confidence was starting to hit different because I knew who I was. I knew where I came from. And I remember the great Dr. Kaba Kamene, he said that you have millions of your ancestors behind you, millions. And when you have that confidence in knowing that when they're telling you that Socrates was the father of this, or this person was the father of that, and you just chuckle on the inside because you know that that's not true. But when it's time to do those papers, it's time to do those research papers, you have confidence in your Blackness that, yes, I can come in with a baseball cap, a gold chain on, and sneakers, and I'm still the smartest person in the room, and I know I am, and I know that I'm going to finish with the highest grade in the class. And when you actually do it because of the confidence that you have, it's a completely different type of vibe. And from me experiencing, from me learning, and from me being around certain things, and minoring in African American studies, where I'm being exposed to different books and different literature and facts and people, it just expands that bandwidth of intellectual property and prowess, to where you aren't intimidated anymore being in the room. You aren't scared anymore when it comes to learning new things. You aren't afraid to exalt and to express who you are, right? So again, teach a child, teach them. And I remember Frederick Douglass, how he said it's easier to teach a child than it is a grown man. And that's a fact, because a child will not be set in their ways, and a child isn't already exposed to all of this craziness in the world. And teach your child early, because if you think about it, from day one, 9 times out of 10, you're growing up in a very Christian, Anglo-Saxon dominated environment where your God is white, where probably your first teacher is white, to where everyone in power around you is white. And if everyone in power, if you're growing up in a Black community, everyone in power is Black, but you're told that you don't go to the best school in America, or the best school in your county, and you're told that the best schools are the white schools, and everything that is good is associated with white. Or if you're watching sports, especially with football, it's going to be a white coach, white general manager, and a white owner at that, but there's Black bodies on the field. So it's all about changing that perspective, and to show you and to let you know, like, the architecture that you see even in Washington, D.C., it literally copies Kemet. The obelisk, all that stuff, it copies Kemet. So understand who we are, where we come from, and just think, constantly challenge the ideas. Even the Bible that you read, think about this: Israel is in Northeast Africa. It's simple. Joseph in the Bible, if you read, his own brothers, after they sold him off to slavery, couldn't even recognize him when they came back to see him. Just think about that. And Homer himself said that they were dark people with curly, kinky hair. Sometimes we have to put 2 and 2 together, but what happens is we get so messed up, and we just start thinking that there's no way that we can be that great because of that indoctrination process, that we get so brainwashed that we don't think about our greatness. We don't think about our extensive history. And that's why teaching our children at such a very young age is so important, because with that confidence, our young black girls who are dark skinned, they feel powerful in their blackness. The young black girls who are light skinned, they don't feel conflicted that I feel like people think that I'm too good only because I'm light skinned. I didn't choose to be light skinned. There is no longer that divide where we see all each other as one. Black men, same exact thing. And then we start to treat our women better. The women start to treat the men better. That appreciation factor grows because the family dynamic from ancient Africa and indigenous America was huge. And even in America, think about the Olmecs, right? Nobody really talks about that, how we skim over how there were black people here in America way before Columbus, thousands of years before Columbus, by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. Check that book out and just read, consume information, and learn. And just keep learning and keep expanding our minds, and understand that the knowledge that we constantly grow and learn and tap into, that is knowledge that's not supposed to be kept to just one person. Share it with your children, share it with your family, and just have regular conversations. You don't have to force these conversations, but just drop in just small nuggets and just drop those seeds. And even if your family or friend may not be receptive, the seeds, they will grow. So understand, listen, expand your mind, and let that confidence grow. And that is the importance of us knowing our history at a very young age, is that shapes the rest of our lives, because who you think you are is who you will be. And the mind is the most important tool that we have, because the mind controls our reality. And through the mind, we see what's not there and we make it real. So make our history real. Make our people and our ancestors real again, and honor them, honor their names, because the same way that we're talking and the same way that we're here, there will probably be another 200, 300 years after us. And who will remember us? And we have that same DNA, and that same DNA that we currently have will be passed on down the line. So inspire one another, embrace one another, and let's listen, learn, and laugh. And we have 2 ears, 1 mouth, so let's listen twice as much as we talk. So let's keep growing, let's keep expanding. Y'all make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Drop a comment if you enjoyed this talk. Let me know what you would like for me to talk about next, and how we can interact more, how we can talk more. And I love y'all. Keep showing love, share this content. And if you would like to book a consultation with your boy about expanding your brand, enhancing your content, let me know, and I got you.